Hi chaps, and welcome to step 10, printing. It's our last step in this series. I'm currently on page 66 of the user guide, but it's time now that you want to show the world just what you're capable of. Maybe not the world right now, but at least your boss or your colleagues at work. And so you've created all of these reports and charts and you want to prepare. Okay, so that's the scenario that you now need to print out your report. Printing can be a bit tricky at times, and even to this day I really have to make sure that I've checked all the boxes, so to speak, before I actually hit that print button. And I just want to share some of the tips that I use. And it also gives you an opportunity to click on the file menu. Now this is going backstage. In a few versions ago, Microsoft introduced the concept of backstage, and I think they've reverted back to just using the file menu, but this is what's going on behind the scenes. And we've got all of our options: new and open, save as. And if you follow along in this series, then I'm going to go through an awful lot of all of these options and share that information with you. But for now, what we're really interested in at the moment is this area, this print. And if you just click on it, then look at that. You get a print preview of exactly what it's going to look like if you press the print button now. Straight away, you can see that we've got a problem because our charts are spilling over. This is portrait. The paper orientation is set at portrait at the moment. If you just look down here, we've got some navigation arrows, and you can see straight away that we're currently viewing page 1 of 2 pages. And if you just click on the right arrow, it shows you what page 2 would look like. Again, if you printed it out right now, that's how it's going to appear on your paper. Of course, that's not great, guys. So what we're going to do here, on the left hand side, under your settings, we've got portrait orientation. So if we click on the drop down, you can change it to landscape and it just flips it. Isn't that brilliant? However, we're now looking at page 2 of 4 pages, and you think, well heavens, what on earth's going on? So this is page 1. Just clicked on the left button. Let's just scroll through by clicking and seeing why we've got 4 pages. And you've got to look at this closely, but there's just a faint line there. It looks like it's picked up the very edge of one of our charts. So if we go back one, you can just see a very faint line. Right, now before I go any further, guys, let's just go back to our sheet. And if you're not seeing exactly what I'm seeing, make sure that your charts are from column H over to column M. Okay, if you just scroll down, they should all be in line. Okay, now this is going to be different for many of you depending on how your paper size is set up. In the UK, we use A4. Now you guys in America, Canada, I know, use the letter size for your paper. So bear with me here, and you might have to employ a little bit of flexibility because of the way that your paper sizes are set up. But I'm hoping that the information I give you will allow you to at least have an idea and to make the necessary adjustments. There's also the case that the scaling could be different on yours. Okay, now currently I'm on page layout. Okay, on the tabs I've clicked on page layout and my scale is at 80%. I'm going to whack it up to 100 just by clicking on the up arrow, and hopefully we're all more or less on the same page, so to speak. So let's go back to the file menu, click on print, and I've still got 4 pages, and it's because I'm just spilling over now that I've increased that to 100%. And I've only done that, guys, just so that we're all working to the same scales at least. Now it might be that you have to go back to the chart sheet and see if you can make any manual adjustments to try and squeeze up your data a little bit. Now it doesn't look as if we can adjust any of the column sizes because they're just perfect, aren't they? And then I've already adjusted column G. We can make a little bit narrower, but it could make it all look a little bit too scrunched up. It might be that we have to select each of the charts. So I'm going to select the first chart. Holding down my control button, I'm going to click on the second chart. I can let go of the control button now and then scroll down to the third chart, and again hold down the control button as you click the left mouse button and release the control button. So that's selected all of your charts. What I'm going to do is just reduce the zoom so that you can see what's going to happen here. Hold down the left mouse button and just drag inwards ever so slightly, just to resize them. Let's go back to the File menu and click on Print. Nope, still not having an effect because I've still got 4 pages. Now the other thing that might help is down here in the far right corner there's 2 further options. The first one is Show Margins, and if we click on that, you get a representation of the size of your columns on your sheet. Now there's quite a wide margin here to the left and to the right. Now if we click and drag to the left to reduce the size of that margin, and then we can do the same on the far right. You click on the edge of the margin and you click and drag with the left mouse button over to the right. So we're nearly there but not quite. Can you see how tricky this can be sometimes? It can be a real pain. So if that's not helping, the only other thing that we can do now is to adjust the scaling. Now we saw it on the Page Layout tab here, Scale. So we can use this drop down here, or if we're in the File Print area, down at the bottom under Settings is No Scaling, and if you click on that we can say Fit Sheet on 1 page. So if we click on that, that's really scrunched it up. If we click on the option again, we can say No Scaling, because I think that's just too scrunched up. So let's see what available options are in our margins. We've got Custom because we use the click and drag method, so that's gone to Custom. That's why we've got a star there, because we've been clicking and dragging. We've got Normal, we've got Wide, and we've got Narrow. So let's try the narrow option. That hasn't seemed to help much either. Let's go back to our page layout, and let's reduce the scaling. So we'll go to 90%, go back to File, have a look at Print. Oh, we're down to 2 pages. But look how that's scrunched up there. So with our margins, we can just adjust those. So March is okay. Just increase the size of our margins for April and increase the size of our margins for May, and also now for total, and you can see the effect that that's having. Let's go to page 2, and that's looking good, guys. So it is tricky, but I'd really recommend that you come in and do all that you can using the settings. So we had a look here at changing the orientation. Mine is set to letter, and it should really be at A4. So if you're viewing in Canada or the States, then that's probably great for you guys. If I choose A4, it's probably, I've got a little bit more room to play with. Narrow margins. Again, Custom is because we've been adjusting manually our margins by clicking and dragging. So you have to try all kinds of different things here. Your Custom Scaling, No Scaling, Fit Sheet on 1 page. So if you've just got 1 page of data and it's just hanging over into a second, that can be a lifesaver. Okay, so you'll just have to investigate some of the settings that you've got here. Just ensure that you're on page 1 in your print preview, guys. Can you just see though that at the bottom, on my screen anyway, is the top of our chart for our supplier invoices? Well, that's not good. So we'll go back to our sheet, and I'll just increase the zoom back to 100%, and I'm going to move the supplier invoice table down to row 47. and I think I'll move the chart down to row 45. Now I'll show you something as well, because it throws a lot of people. At the moment the chart's selected, so if I go to File and go to Print, that's all I see, because Excel interprets that as that's the only thing that I want to print. Okay, let's go back, take the focus off the chart by clicking away, and now if I go back to File and Print, then you can see that it's no longer poking its head over the top. And if I go to page 2, because I've moved it down somewhat, it's given it a little bit more space. That might be a little bit too much, but you get the idea, guys. Let's go back to page 1. Now if I only wanted to print page 1, okay, I had no interest in page 2 for whatever reason, then under the settings, under print active sheets, I could say print page 1 to page 1. So if I had a sheet that had maybe 10 pages and I only wanted to print pages 5 to 10, then all I have to do here is say page 5 to page 10, for example. Okay, and then when you're ready, you would just click on the print button, guys. That would be it. And there's the copies here. If you just wanted one copy, it would just be 1. You can increase to however many copies you want, and then click the print button. Now I have tried to represent all of that in the user guide, but it is a little bit tricky to write about it. It's better really to have a look and have a go. As I say, it is tricky and there's so many options. But while we're in the page layout view, just want to show you a couple of nice tricks. That's currently with our charts on the screen or on the sheet. If you come to the page layout and in the sheet options, we've got an option to deselect the grid lines. If you take that off, doesn't that look fabulous? It really shows up the charts now because you don't have the grid lines turned on in the background. The grid lines, incidentally, don't print out on your print copies. So what you actually see on the screen at the moment is how you would see it represented on a printout, on a hard copy. So well done, chaps. That brings us to the end. I've just got one more video and I'll say my goodbyes in the conclusion, so I'll see you then.